Hi, hello, it is your least favorite Drag Race commentator, Jer, recovering from COVID, so we're gonna try to keep this short and sweet. We're talking about Canada's Drag Race versus the World Season 2. We are in episode 2, which is called The Hole. Holes are something that I'm very passionate about. It's something that I very much enjoy, so I'm excited to talk about this episode. Starting out, this episode feels like it was built specifically for Cheryl and for Fierce. One with Cheryl's old name having hole in it, which I don't think she goes by anymore, and Fierce being on the Traitors. So this really felt like they were kept in mind while they were moving forward with this episode, and I always think that Drag Race does this thing where they'll design a challenge with someone in mind, someone in the cast, and they sort of lob this watermelon at them hoping that they'll grab it, and sometimes they catch and sometimes they epically miss. And unfortunately for both of these people, it was a little bit of a miss. For Fierce, it was more of a miss than it was for Cheryl. I think Cheryl caught it and then dropped it. So we have a parody of the Traitors, and I think not the Circle. I don't remember what the other Netflix show is that this is referencing. If anyone remembers, let me know. My brain fog is really bad, but there's something where you're supposed to kind of point out who the person is in the group that's lying to you. I wish I could remember. It doesn't matter. I'll maybe post like a link down here if I remember. This is an improv and acting challenge, and best of all, it is not in front of a green screen. I despise green screen challenges, and I wish that we never had to see a green screen challenge again. The Drag Race franchise has more than enough money to build practical sets. We do not need green screen anymore. It is so disrespectful to these queens. It is disrespectful to their time, it's disrespectful to the money that they spent, and it is disrespectful to the fans because we get garbage. No one likes green screen. They don't look good. They always look flat and boring and bad. Having Lisa Rinna there to be a proxy to move the improv along was really smart. When they announced that someone else was coming in, I thought, oh my god, are we gonna bring back La Kahena? But then I remembered that Lisa Rinna was supposed to show up, and she came in looking like she was about to stab Professor Plum in the conservatory with a knife and then bury his body and then go shoot Miss Scarlet. She looked so freaking cool. And I really loved her presence in this improv because she was just being silly and goofy and seemed to have a really good time. Misnaming Fierce was probably one of the funniest things that happened all night. I loved that they were trying to figure out who the hole was, and they all were the hole. Lisa Rinna then smashes her glass on the table and screams that she needs a Xanax and a drink, which, if I'm not terribly mistaken, was that a line that Jackie Cox used in season 12? Because I feel like Lisa also referenced Jackie's performance again in the judges' critiques a couple of times. She seems like a fan of the show, and I kind of love that. The standouts for me in this improv were obviously Cheryl. She looked the part. She was so overenthusiastic and so deeply invested. Her reaching into the purse and then sticking up her middle finger will probably be the best thing that came out of this episode, aside from Lemon's weird Leslie Jordan meets John Waters voice that she was doing. That was so hilarious with the padded cup to make it look like her bulge was huge. And then I really liked Alexis's performance, and I know that I'm Alexis Mateo's biggest fan in the whole world, but I thought she was really funny, and I thought her presentation on the runway was great, and we'll get to that in a moment. I liked Kennedy's performance a lot, but for me it was really similar to what she did in The Bachelor, especially with sort of having the messy hair and the messy face and everything being a little busted and badly proportioned. It was like, I've seen this character before, and it's funny and it works, but the last time I saw it I cackled, and this time it was like, oh yeah, I've seen this. So for me, I didn't think that it was the best performance of the night. I thought it was familiar and it was strong and it was good, but it wasn't the best. I didn't like Eureka's voice that she was doing, and I thought a lot of her mannerisms were kind of odd. LaPhil was clearly the worst for me because he was just very insecure in this role and clearly didn't know what he was doing, but was not as bad as Tainomi, who last week I mentioned I saw her getting in her head again. She was doing exactly what she did in season 1, which was retreat into the back of her mind, and I don't know if she doesn't think she's good enough. I don't know if she doesn't think that she can stand up with some of these all-stars, but whatever's going on in her head, it is very clear that Tainomi does not believe in herself and is not present in this competition. And that's upsetting because I think Tainomi's next to go. Now we get to the runway, and I want to talk about Brooklyn Heights, who looked so stunning in red. I loved this biker latex look. My only complaint is I wish that Brooke was just like a little more padded and booby. I wanted her to be like sort of va-va-voom, and I think it would have looked really fetishy, which is why she didn't do it. Maybe she wanted to just look really cool and punk and not fetish at all, but I think that she could have looked. Lisa Rinna coming out looking like she was about to lip sync for her life in the finale was incredible. I loved that look. It looked like it was gonna be ripped off and like a slutty bodysuit was gonna be underneath and then there was gonna be a tearaway underneath that tearaway. She killed it for me. Lisa turned it. The category is Mother Nature. Cheryl came out, and I gotta be honest, this is not my favorite look. I don't understand either one of these references. When she was explaining it, I got it, but I didn't like it, and that's the problem. You can explain something all day, but if it's not visually that interesting, it's not gonna make sense. Being someone who's out in the desert looking for water and then you find it, it's not really a story that makes sense on the runway. I think that there were a lot of other ways to interpret water, and we saw that from some of the other queens. It was poorly misguided, and unfortunately this cost Cheryl the challenge because she easily had it in the bag. LaPhil looked beautiful. I thought the print was really nice. That was my favorite part of it. Not a lot of prints were seen on the runway, but we got to see that. And the fact that this was a sustainable look from fabric that would have been thrown out, I thought that was cool too, and it was a nice way to nod towards taking care of the earth and Mother Nature. I just don't know if it reached the prompt enough. Then we have Fierce, who was undoubtedly my favorite look of the night. Unfortunately, Fierce's performance in the challenge was so god-awful and so bad. Doesn't matter how good this look was. It doesn't matter how fabulous this look was. It did not save her from the bottom because she had a horrid performance in that challenge. Now, that being said, I knew that Fierce was going to be the runway girl this season, and she is absolutely not letting me down from that standard that she set on her season. So I'm really excited to see more, and I also really appreciated her talking about really reclaiming her blackness and not being ashamed of that and really being proud of that. Thought that was a beautiful message, and I think a lot of people could see themselves in someone like her, and I think that's what's great about Canada's Drag Race is that they allow these types of conversations to happen naturally and allow the queens to talk about them. Lemon came out as Purple Kush, and in my notes I wrote down, it's fine. I liked it, and it wasn't bad. It was just fine to me. It was a good runway, but I didn't really get Mother Earth from it. I got Stoner, which is cool for another prompt, probably. Alexis looked really freaking cool for wearing a bodysuit, which I don't like bodysuits on the runway, but this one I liked, and I liked that she even changed her makeup. Alexis Mateo is doing it so different for this season, and I love that we're getting to really experience a variety of what Alexis can do. And I wish that this had been rewarded with a top 3 placement. Eureka came out looking really cool. There was a lot going on, like this is a lot, mama. That's a whole lot. But I didn't feel overwhelmed by it. And a lot of times with looks like this, it can sort of be like, I feel the anxiety and my blood pressure rising. But that's not what this did. I thought it was just cool and it was fun, and I liked that it was something kind of different for Eureka. It was a little more avant-garde and camp. And I am appreciating this side of Eureka's drag. Then we had Kennedy Davenport, and I'm under the impression that this was an Akira creation. Visually and silhouette-wise, it's really cool, and I don't want to come across like I'm a hater or anything, but I thought that the colors were a little Christmassy. And even though it's July and I'm celebrating Christmas in July, I didn't think that the colors were very Mother Nature. I thought it felt a little holiday party. So for me, this was sort of just a fine look. And then last up we have Tainomi giving us an ocean goddess, which I also wasn't really getting Mother Nature from either. I was getting Mother Ocean, which is cool, but not Mother Nature. The overwhelming problem for me with this look is this 99-cent store trident. If it's not from the 99-cent store, it looks like it came from there. And then this stark white basketball netting that's hanging off the side. It doesn't look like fisherman netting. It looks like something you would have for like a goalpost, which is soccer or something. I don't know. Something nautical would be a more pearlescent color. It would be maybe even like a beige or pearl color. And because this was so stark white, it reads cheap unless you put a lot of sparkle on it. And the rest of the look was pretty solid, in my opinion. But your props can make or break a look, and this trident and this net, this sport net, was just a little too ugh. So now we get into deliberation, and Kennedy is the winner, which I don't think was the correct choice. I love that Team Tongue Pop was in the top 2 weeks in a row, but in my personal opinion, I really think it should have been Alexis in that spot, and I would have probably given it to either Alexis or Lemon. I personally think it would have made a cooler Drag Race story if it was Alexis from being in the bottom and almost eliminated last week, but getting the Beaver save to winning this week, that would have been a cool story arc. Plus, I think she deserved it with her challenge and her runway. Kennedy gets to save someone, and personally, I would have saved LaPhil. I think he's got an interesting story to tell, and I think that he's got a lot to say. Plus, it's Canada's Drag Race, and getting a Canadian out now would be a good decision. And Fierce was the worst in the challenge. Maybe not the worst in the runway, but was horrible and was kind of being a brat through a lot of the deliberation. So I would have saved LaPhil, and I would have made the Canadians lip sync against each other. But last week, Lemon played really fairly, so I think Kennedy was trying to play fairly as well. LaPhil didn't do good in the challenge and also did bad on the runway, and Tainomi did bad in the challenge and on the runway, where Fierce did bad in the challenge but excelled on the runway. So if we're gonna try and play this as fairly as possible, like how we did last week, where Alexis was great in the challenge and in the runway, therefore did not deserve to be in the bottom, we gotta save Fierce because she was the best one of them. So let the worst two lip sync. LaPhil got dog walked by Tainomi, which seems to be a theme this season. The people in the bottom are getting dog walked by the stronger competitor. So what's gonna happen as the weaker lip syncers get eliminated? We're gonna get to a situation where someone like Cheryl and Eureka are gonna go against each other, and that's gonna be an insane lip sync. Or Kennedy is gonna go against someone like Lemon, and that's gonna be an insane lip sync. But to be honest, I was expecting LaPhil out kind of early, so I'm not horrendously surprised that LaPhil is out right now. Next week is going to be a ball, and for the first time ever in an all-star situation, we have an entire cast who all epically failed their original challenge of what this category is. I cannot think of a single challenge that we've had in Drag Race history in an all-star situation where everybody that's participating in that challenge failed the first time around. We've had a lot of balls where half the cast didn't do good and maybe 2 or 3 did pretty good, or snatch games where half the cast never got to do it and the other half did well, or things that are similar, but we've never had a situation where every one of them failed in a design challenge. Kennedy flubbing in the Hello Kitty ball. Alexis flubbing in the backyard. Actually, strike that. I may be a stan, but she's been in the bottom every single design challenge. Cake, money, hair, backyard. And the girl group challenge where they had to design something too in All Stars 1. Damn. I have a lot of faith in Alexis, and she just doesn't do good in these challenges. Eureka, I'm pretty sure, was in the bottom during the blue ball and also flubbed the design challenge that was, I think, in 10. Cheryl went home during the UK design challenge, and Cheryl did not do good during the Posh on a Penny. Lemon flubbing her very first design challenge. Tainomi going home on a design challenge. And Fierce being in the bottom, I think twice in design challenges. It's kind of a bad track record, so I'm expecting something that's so abysmal that it's just gonna be good, because when everybody's bad, you can sort of just appreciate whoever stands out and isn't the worst. So I can't wait to see how this turns out. I can't wait to see the 7-way lip sync, or them somehow turn this into a, all right, well, you're the winner, and next week we're gonna do a lip sync Lollapalooza, and whoever's at the end is gonna go home, so get ready to dip, bitch. I can't wait. Anyway, I will see you next week for the next episode of Canada's Drag Race versus the World 2. Who are you rooting for next week? I have all the faith in Alexis Mateo, but I already know that she's not gonna win, but if she does, I'd be so happy. I think this could be a redemption for literally any of them, so who knows what storyline they'll go with. Hopefully, it's good TV, whatever happens. All the girls keep saying, keep your expectations low. So I'm going in with low expectations. What were your thoughts on this episode? And thank you for watching. See you on the flip. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.